The Labour Party are in the process of breaking our economy, but they're also in the process of destroying the future economy for their ideology and for their incompetence. So it's ideology on the part of Ed Miliband and sheer and utter incompetence on the part of Rachel Reeves. So we're going to cover two very, very specific data points today, which are going to highlight how Labour are breaking and smashing our economy and our future economy. So the first data point is relating to Ed Miliband. Now I'm going to play you a very, very short clip from a Conservative MP called Claire Coutinho. Now, Claire Coutinho here used to be a banker. She's one of those Tories that isn't going to get a slating immediately from me because she wasn't part of the last set of MPs in the previous government. She came into being an MP in 2024, a very bright lady, and she's going to outline to you why the current crop of auctions relating to wind power are a terrible idea and how. Essentially, Ed Miliband is about to raise our energy bills for a generation because these auctions and Ed's contracts that he's signing us into go forward for a couple of decades.
In the election, Ed Miliband promised he was going to cut your energy bills.
Bills will come down by up to £300.
Cut bills by an average of £300.
Pledge to cut bills by up to £300.
Bring down bills by about £400. That's a permanent drop.
But since then, your bills have gone up. And now he's about to lock you into higher prices for longer. Let me explain why. Every year, the government buys new wind and solar power in an auction. And last year, Ed Miliband signed us up to the highest prices in a decade, almost 15% higher than the average cost of electricity that year. Now, Ed wants almost all of our electricity to come from wind and solar power in just 5 years' time. That means buying and building more than we ever have before. He's basically come in and said to energy companies, whatever you're selling, I'll be buying no matter what the cost. And he's also extending the contracts to 20 years, which will be locking you into higher prices for longer. But something's up, because despite Ed being the man that did this,
So my friend is blowing in the wind.
this year's auction is missing in action. It's 8 months late. Why? Because Ed knows that it's going to prove that his plans won't cut your bills. And he's not the only one. Here's one of the UK's largest wind developers who say consumers risk losing out. Here's the head of the GMB union who says Ed's plans are going to drive up bills. And here's his own chief energy system advisor warning that this won't be good for consumers. What do those people all have in common? They know what Ed's plans are, and they know it will mean higher bills for you and your family.
And in my opinion, she's not far wrong on that. Within all of this, what needs to be understood in this current situation is this. There are a huge amount of people currently against Ed Miliband's policies because they believe that these are going to explode consumer prices. There was a slight dip in the cost of energy recently, but in the future, I think we all know where this is going. And of course, this has a knock-on effect on business because we're one of the highest price energy in the world. So this isn't really going to attract business to us either. And Ed is gambling. And what he's doing, he's in effect saying this. I'm going to use all of my political power up on this one issue. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to push this through. And later on, in 10 years, everyone's going to thank me because the UK will have the cheapest energy in the world because we'll be almost 100% solar and wind. And then everyone's going to turn round and slap me on the back and say, thanks for doing that, Ed. You stood tall when everyone doubted your plan. The only problem with this crazy plan is that nobody agrees with Ed Miliband. He's pushing ahead with this in the headwinds of virtually every other person, not only in the industry, not only in the wind industry, he's also looking at the unions. There's a ton of MPs now just staring at him and saying, what are you doing with this? Why are you signing us up to 2 decades worth of wind power? What's going on? Ed Miliband is attempting to lock this country into higher bills for a longer period of time based upon his personal decision that he believes that he understands what's going on. And that level of sociopathic narcissism is going to destroy our ability to pay energy bills for a decade or two. And this is what Labour are currently doing now. And I think Claire Coutinho is 100% correct there. And if you go on to Parliament YouTube, you can actually watch some very, very in-depth debates with Claire here, where she smashes Ed Miliband every single time she stands up and debates with him. And the only thing he comes back with ever is, this is all going to work out in the end. And very, very dangerous man Ed Miliband is to your pocket. Now, moving on to other Labour crazy people who are very, very dangerous to your pocket, we're going to have a quick look at Rachel Reeves' latest scheme, which is to sell all of the UK's Bitcoin.
Does it sound like a sort of canny move, this?
I don't think so, actually. Mainly because it would almost, I think, be for Rachel Reeves what selling the gold was for Gordon Brown. I don't see any indication that Bitcoin, the value of it, is set to fall. If anything, it's continually rising. And whilst it may be a short-term solution to Rachel Reeves' problems, I can very much imagine in 5 years or so, if Bitcoin continues its meteoric rise, that Rachel Reeves will be completely condemned for selling such a huge amount of wealth at a market level that would then prove quite low. The problems, of course, of Rachel Reeves, I would argue, are of her own making. So to be, basically...
Not totally of her own making.
Largely. I mean, she told us last year, of course, that she'd fixed the foundations, that it was a one-off set of tax rises, and now, because of various U-turns and growth has been paltry for all sorts of reasons, she's now having to scrabble down the back of the proverbial sofa and is looking at sort of selling the family silver for short-term fundraising, and I think that's unconscionable.
Now, Bitcoin is currently at an all-time high, and it's currently being bought up by a lot of investment houses and sovereign wealth funds and a huge amount of very, very wealthy private individuals as well. And whilst we are probably going to experience what you would call a bear market in Bitcoin within the next 6 to 12 months, and the price is probably going to drop, in the future, this price, in my opinion, in the opinion of a lot of other people who've previously bought Bitcoin, the cost of Bitcoin is going to skyrocket. And I'm talking about 10x, possibly 20, possibly more. Now, you may or may not know this, but Gordon Brown sold a majority of the gold that this country owned at the precise, almost precise bottom of the gold market. He sold a majority of this country's gold in order to patch the finances a little bit like what Rachel's doing now. And it was such a bad deal, the markets had a name for it, and they called it Brown's Bottom. So that's a good claim to fame for Gordon Brown, who did not understand economics at all. Likewise, we've now got Rachel Reeves here, and what she's going to do, because the Labour Party have an inability to walk any of these costs back that are spiralling out of control, she's going to sell most of this country's Bitcoin to make £5 billion in order to plug a gap because of her incompetence at the last budget. And this isn't really going to cover a lot of money. It's just going to give her a little bit of room so she can keep her head above water for a couple more months. But within 4 to 5 years, the decision that she's taking now will be viewed by historians as an awful decision. She should not be selling these Bitcoin reserves. She should be keeping them for the sake of our country, because in the future, what she's about to sell could be worth 100 billion, could be worth even more than that. And so, looking at these two things here, we don't need any more proof whatsoever. The sheer incompetence of this Labour Party in smashing this country's finances is off the charts. Thanks very much for your time.